And then defense, Mark, I just think this defense has a chance to be phenomenal if they can stay healthy in the back end. And I'm talking at corner mainly. If they can stay healthy back there, this defense has a chance to be phenomenal. And the only hesitation I had back in the spring, Mark, was linebacker. Because I'm thinking, how do you replace Jack Campbell and Seth Benson? Those guys have been so productive for Iowa over such a long period of time. And I'm not saying that Nick Jackson and Kyler Fisher and those guys are going to be plug-and-play guys, but I think Nick Jackson's got a shot. He was an all-ACC guy at Virginia, and everything I've heard about Jay Higgins over the last 2 weeks has been positive. I mean, everything I've heard about his leadership, how he's stepped up as a verbal leader and a leader by example. His football intelligence is really high, and I'm just a lot higher on Jay Higgins now than I was even 2 weeks ago. So maybe I'm buying into some of the hype there, but that's also from things that have been said by coaches and players. So if the linebacker group is solid and they stay healthy in the back end, defense has got a chance to be really, really good.
And I know, Corey, that above all else, you're leaning on my feedback of Jay Higgins. That is where you're taking that first and foremost is, of course, from...
Well, I'll tell you what it started with, Mark. All joking aside, what it started with for me was when Noah Shannon backed out of Big Ten Media Days and Kirk elected Jay Higgins. That's what kind of first made me think, maybe I'm sleeping a little bit on Jay Higgins. Now, just because Kirk sends a guy to Media Day doesn't mean he's one of the best players on the team, but it does say a lot about how Kirk views that individual as a leader. And the fact that Jay Higgins didn't start last year and didn't play a whole lot on defense, he played some. But for the most part, he didn't, because you had 2 or 3 linebackers in front of him. And one of them was Jack Campbell, who was voted the best linebacker in the country last year. So the fact that Kirk did that, and it's a little different with Luke Lachey at tight end because, although he wasn't the starter, he played a lot as the second tight end on this roster. But Jay Higgins, for him to be getting that much fanfare and credit prior to even fall camp starting tells me he's made some significant strides during summer and during spring.
So let's all understand something. The selection of players to represent the team in front of the media at media days should not be a big deal, but let's put this into focus here. So as long as you're representing both sides of the ball and you're selecting players that obviously represent the program well on and off the field, they're going to be good players. And again, they can communicate well. You would think that should be enough. And for those players that are not selected, they wouldn't care. Big deal. Doesn't matter. However, we're talking about 18 to 22-year-olds. I'm thinking of people that I know my age and in their 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s that would be petty, would be put off, would read into those selections. So Kirk did make a comment that I saw at Big Ten Media Days where he said he hates making this selection. So he does take it into account. He does try to get it right. And I heard a few other coaches make the same the same statement or a similar statement that they have to let other players know, hey, I only have 3 selections. I wish you could come, would love to have you, but I only have 3 selections. And so you got to manage those sorts of things.
Here's the other part of it. And yes, we're reading into it to an extent, but here's the other reason why Jay Higgins being selected to go to Big Ten Media Days stood out to me, besides the fact that he wasn't a starter last year. You have other options on this team that, by all accounts, are tremendous leaders, like Nico Ragaini. Like, this is his last year, Mark. Like, he could have easily been in Indy. And if you think Kirk's not going to select a wide receiver, go back to last year. Tyrone Tracy attended. Well, I shouldn't say last year before last. Tyrone Tracy attended for Iowa. So it's not like Kirk's afraid to send a receiver. He could have also sent Logan Lee. Noah Shannon can't attend. Is he defensive tackle senior? Logan Lee's an experienced vet on the inside of that defensive line. They could have sent Joe Evans, who also returned for an extra year, as did Noah Shannon. So I guess my point is there's guy like Kyler Fisher's a senior. Yes, he hasn't played either, but he is an experienced guy on special teams, just like Jay Higgins is. The fact that Jay Higgins got that sort of an endorsement from his head coach, I think says a lot. And, Jamari Harris is another one. He could have been maybe Jamari Harris he had the OWI a year ago. Maybe that would be kind of an odd storyline. But the point is, I've heard nothing but good things about Jay. And, you just think about those two guys together. Jay is an excellent athlete. Nick Jackson's numbers at Virginia indicate that he could somewhat fill the numbers role that Jack Campbell did of just being a kind of a tackle machine, or a Josie Jewell even, who was kind of a tackle machine at Iowa, didn't have the physical traits that Jack did. If those two guys can do that, and you can stay healthy with your cash and play a lot of 4-2-5 with Sebastian Castro, stay healthy in the back end with Xavier Wampa and Quinn Schulte. Like I said, I think the guys who are going to be on the field for snaps 1, 2, and 3 on defense might be as good as we've seen here in at least recent memory. Like, I don't know if they're as deep at DB. I don't know if they're as deep at linebacker. I do know they're really deep at defensive line. But I think the guys who are going to be starting have a chance to be exceptional.